Good evening. By day, I am the writer, editor, lore keeper, board game designer, and stream host of City State Entertainment. This evening, as with many evenings, I am preparing for a D&D campaign. And tonight, I am going to work on a few encounters. We've had some encounters that were... Sorry, bumped the table there. Some encounters that were meant to be epic in our recent sessions. And they were, but I think it became a slog toward the end. So I would like to fix that by making some amazing encounters pre-prepared. Now, one of the things that I do in the Wildlands campaign, as it is a hex crawler, the players have this hex map, unlabeled, but with lots of clues about places to go, things to see. And I roll randomly for encounters, especially as the players travel. They roll on against difficulty for travel. They can use survival to help them travel safely. They can use perception to look for danger. Really, they can come up with any skill, including Arcana and History, to try and convince me to let them use it. And they need to get 3 successes before they get 3 failures, normally. And if they fail 3 times before they succeed 3 times, then there's a random encounter rolled. Now, random encounters are all very well, and they have been fun. And if you are, like me, someone who has run a lot of D&D over 15 years or longer, you probably have a sense of how to make even a random encounter with no preparation interesting. But I've been thinking about ways of making those encounters, all the encounters in the game, more interesting. And one thing that I've thought of is I like the spontaneity, and I like not knowing. I like that I don't necessarily know exactly what's the players are going to encounter. The problem with that is it works for simple monsters, like, say, a troll is fairly straightforward. Might need to refresh how troll, healing works in this edition, but other than that, but it's more complicated monsters. It can be difficult to not just to figure out how they work in the moment, but to use them in an appropriate and challenging manner. So that's one wrinkle. So I'm going to roll for some random encounters now, and prepare some encounter concepts and ideas ahead of time, so that when the players inevitably run into a random encounter or try and go to a place that I haven't prepared for, I have something ready to go that I know the ins and outs of. So that's the second wrinkle. The third wrinkle is that I'm playing online. And when you play online, a lot of the normal ways of doing things, a lot of the normal conveniences of playing in person, you have to rethink or just aren't available. So, for example, I can't hand the players a physical object like a map. I have to create it digitally, which means that there's no tactile element to cover up the, the amount of time and the horribleness of my own art. This map that I have on screen is by Ron Pepper, MD, on DeviantArt. So really, it all comes down to what's on the screen, and that's why I care very much in an online game about things like maps and tokens. I care about terrain and minis in the physical game, and there's even more. There's even more thought that has to go into it, or different kind of thought that has to go into it when you're playing online. So that's the third wrinkle. So I want to prep some maps. And because the hex map that I've given the players has a lot of biodiversity, a lot of different types of terrain, all in the area, it's a little difficult to actually prepare. But because I don't know for certain whether the players are going to leave Taurine, which is here in 1313. And, they could go and run into a desert. They could go and run into this nice green forest. They could run into these forested mountains or these rolling hills and be next to a lake. All kinds of possible terrain. So I've really set myself up a bit of a challenge. I have a slight, regret over not making this more convenient for myself at the outset. I wanted to give the players a lot of choice. But I think as a lot of them are newish players, or totally new players to the game, that is, and to my DMing style, giving them a lot of choice doesn't necessarily really result in them making choices. They kind of want to be led along a little bit more. They're used to stories, being, if not on rails, at least a little more laid out than this kind of vast randomized landscape that I have going. The man with no screen name, welcome. Only a slight regret. Yeah, only a slight regret on the map, because part of what is keeping this game always fresh for me is the fact that I haven't planned out every detail and every inch of what this map means. And so I'm kind of giving myself fertile ground, lots of inspiration. But I haven't, but then I can sort of change things on the spot without breaking a lot of various, story gears that might hook into it. Good to see you, the man with no screen name. Alright. So, all of that is to say, I am in the happy position of knowing that my players are headed this way. They are going from Taurine, and they are going to Arkney. And I have already set up a whole I have many details in Arkney. You'll notice the ship is here, because the ship is going to fly there at some point. Actually, that reminds me, I should probably put the ship out of sight so I can kind of reveal it when I want to. Anyway, so I have lots of details for Arkney. A whole several pages in my notes are devoted to this town and the library of Ibu Gruger, so I've been eager for the players to go here. And I know that on their way from Torine, which is this map, they are going to pass through either these hills or these forested mountains, because they're going to go northeast and go to Arkney, which is here. So I can actually prepare something in case they run into trouble on the way. Of course, it's possible they won't. But if I prepare something for these two spots, I think I'll be good. I'll be sitting pretty. And those two terrains are somewhat similar, and I have described, because it's either hills or forested mountains. So I have this snow forest, and I have described, it is the middle of sort of the, air quotes, January of this world. And I've described that a light snow has been falling. I can up that and say that the snowfall gets a little heavier. And then I can use some of these awesome snow maps that I've found. Again, this is by Ron Pepper MD on DeviantArt. And I really like this map. Lots of different interesting terrain. It's suggestive of, I think, mountains or hills. Because I can describe either the mountains rising up, towering over the players on either side, if I want to make this a mountain ravine. Lionation, hey! Or I can describe this as hills. Lionation, you're going to be a guest star on an upcoming stream, on an upcoming session. So we gotta get together and make your wizard character, dude. I don't know. Now that Lion Nation is here, I'm wondering if when's good for you. We can have this conversation offline, Lion Nation. Or we can do it live. And I can just switch gears and create your character. I already have Leo's character all set up here. Ready to go. Lionation, you're probably going to come into the game pretty soon here. Maybe next session. Oh wait, am I not allowed to watch the planning session then? That's okay, Lionation. I don't mind. So I am going to do a little prep here. So let's see. I have, so I'm going to pre-roll a random encounter so that I can prepare for it properly. And then I will have the players roll randomly for just how dangerous. I'll see how they do on their traveling skill checks, and then I'll have them roll for to see how dangerous the random encounter is, if should they fail. And the random encounter thing is going to be Pie and Dragons 5e random encounters on in-world or stuff. Very, very cool encounter generator. So, I could base this on Arctic because it's snow. Or I could base this on forest, or hill or mountain. I think I'm gonna go with forest. I have this thickly forested map. So that's what we're gonna do. Oh. I might have to reload this page. Bummer. So this is going to be the kind of seed for a random encounter. It's still random. I am just 2 tigers. That's interesting. Starting migration. Currently they are fatigued. Possible location of Mossy Garden. Well, that's going to be this. Optional, they are sacred to a nearby cult / religion / temple. Oh man, that's why I love this random encounter generator. Because I was like, tigers, not that interesting. But see, then sacred tigers. I love Pie and Dragons 5e random encounters. Alpining for Snowy Woods, Amax. Do the 2 tigers also have 6-year-old druids commanding them? They could. Is that... Sure. Is that a suggestion or is that a lead into a pun? Can never be sure with the man with no screen name. Don't make me explain a Calvin and Hobbes joke. Oh, man. Well, you said 6-year-old druids. If you just said 6-year-old, I would have gotten it. But yes, okay. Wow. Calvin and Hobbes. You know, I love Calvin and Hobbes and have my whole life, so... Don't make me come over there. Okay, so... So here's my starting inspiration for this random encounter that I'm pre-rolling. 2 tigers in the area starting location. Currently they are fatigued. Possibly a fresh corpse. They are sacred to a nearby cult / religion / temple. Well, I don't think that this spot on the map is particularly close to any large temples, but that's fine. Because it could be something in the wilderness, it could be this orc camp, it could be anything. Orcs that worships tigers is kind of interesting automatically, but let's see if I have some tiger tokens. Oh, damn, a dire tiger. Regular tigers. Tigers in snow. That's some kind of weird tiger. I have a white tiger, like, sleeping. I'd love for them to be white tigers. But I think we're just going to go with... I'm pretty sure a dire tiger is, like... A dire tiger wouldn't be in along the road between Toreen and Arkney. This is not only would a dire tiger probably wipe out the party, but I've got to look it up first. But I think dire animals, thematically, and not just, by rules or anything, I'm looking up dire tiger right now. Actually, it might be on here. Let's see. Nope. How about just tiger? Huh. Saber-toothed tiger. Alright, so what's the stats of a regular tiger? Okay. So, armor class is low. It's not going to be very hard to hit. Its hit points are solid enough to where, I mean, 2 of them is probably going to be too easy. But I will roll randomly for the danger, and I think, depending, it's challenge 1, so we can throw we can throw more than 2 tigers at the party, and, you know, they'll be okay. And they're 3rd level now, so they're not, you know, they're not paper tigers themselves. Okay, keen smell. The tiger's advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on smell. Okay. So that could be cool if the tigers were to stalk the party. Okay, so we'll come back to that because I have three principles of an awesome encounter. 3 pillars. 3 parts of an awesome encounter, and I will explain why the keen smell plays into the first one in a moment. But let's figure out. Let's finish looking at the stats. It'll be a Siegfried Battle Royale, Max. Awesome. Yes, I used to. I used to go and look at the white tigers at the Siegfried and Roy show. They would have them, you know, outside the show when they weren't doing a show in a kind of a cage. My grandfather would take me, so I have fond memories of white tigers. I mean, I don't even barely remember it. I was so small. Okay, pounce. If the tiger moves at least 20 feet straight toward a creature and then hits it with a claw attack on the same turn, that target must succeed on a DC 13 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. Okay, so DC 13 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. So that's, depending on who it hits, that's very failable. And if the target is prone, the tiger can make 1 bite attack against it as a bonus action. So that would mean that with pounce, he can run his full speed of 40 feet. Oh, they also have dark vision because they're cats. If the target is prone, the tiger can make 1 base attack. So then he can make both attacks. Otherwise, only 1 attack. And definitely prefers to bite, because that's going to do the most damage. But he can pounce, make a claw attack, and bite. Now, pounce is, the way this is written is very interesting because it's certainly going to be most powerful. Wait, we have to stop everything and read Lion Nation's story. One time, Mom took me and the other brother to a suit. Is that like the other mother, the other brother in Coraline? One time, Mom took me and the other brother to a super random big cat zoo in the middle of nowhere, and that's where I got to literally hand feed raw meat to a white Bengal tiger. Well, that sounds like an awesome experience that I wish I'd had. I really missed out by being the eldest and moving out of the house earlier on. Yeah, but best to avoid it, Lion Nation. Pounce. If the tiger moves at least 20... Okay, so Pounce is certainly going to give us that first attack. It could be quite hefty. Now, on average, we are talking 8 plus 7, so 15 slashing and piercing damage, and if the tigers can surprise its prey, then, you know, no rage, no defenses up, that can take a player character, even the third level player characters, down to half. And then 2 tigers pouncing the same target could knock somebody out in the very first round. Or rolling maximum damage, getting a crit, that kind of stuff, could take someone down in the very first round with Pounce. So Pounce, very great opener. But the way this is written, the Tiger can use it again. It's not only during the first round of combat. Pounce used to be nuts. The cat creatures used to get attacks with their back claws and front claws and bite. So it was 5 attacks, but it only worked in the first round of combat. So it was absolutely bonkers. This is a little bit less bonkers and is reusable. So that's really good. Villas Farthuk. Is it Farthuk or Farthuk? Don't answer that. Villas Farthuk. You could start with 2 and then have 2 more sneak up later from a different angle. That's a great idea. This is coming. So based on the stats, I can actually have some tigers in reserve to make it interesting. Now, that's kind of the middle pillar of a great encounter. Or is it Fartuk? Could be. Okay. So I have here some index cards with some encounter twists to them. And I'm going to use these a little bit later. But they have things like there's reinforcements, things like shifting terrain. This one says shifting corridor. I don't know if you can see because the camera adjusting in the weird light. I'm going to pull out these cards and apply them later. Right now, I've got to talk about the 3 pillars of a great encounter. So, let me pull up a new document. We will do this. There we go. Okay. So I have here a blank document. Pillars of a great encounter. So, there are 3 of them. And really, these track with, if you're familiar with principles in writing, of kind of the 3 parts of the story. The beginning, middle, and end. Okay, done. But within that, we have the arc of tension in a scene, in a story, and in this case, in an encounter. So you always want to have slowly rising conflict leading to a climax and a resolution. What that translates to and you want that in an encounter because an encounter is like a mini story. It's going to be satisfying. Humans crave story. And it's going to be satisfying if it has a beginning, middle, and end. Even if parts of those 3 things are short or simple. It'll be satisfying if it has all of those things. And there are ways to do them all. So the 3 things that we think about in an encounter is, number 1, the opening. So the opening of the encounter could be, it could be a sudden attack. That's certainly one of the standard things, right? You can be traipsing through the woods, and a bunch of tigers suddenly pounce on you. It could be a trap drops you into an encounter. It could be that you find a signpost along the road that says, "Beware, ogres ahead." Though really there's if you boil it down, there are two things. Either you have a hint that there's something coming, or you don't. But even if you don't have a hint, even if it's sudden, you want to lead into it with a short description. So I might say, I might have the players roll perception to see if they can spot the tigers hiding in the snow, and if they don't match the tiger's ability to hide with its bright coloration in the snow. Although, tigers, they want to catch their prey. So they'll do something smart. Maybe they're tracking the players with that scent. And that's the other thing, is you can say, you might smell wet fur, and then they're on you. Teeth and claws flashing. It's that, but see that even that one line can be critical of you smell them before you see them. Just like some unwashed little brothers I know. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So, the middle part 2, is the fight. And that can... that's obviously the main thing at issue. And this applies to like a role-playing encounter often as well, although role-playing encounters can be a lot more fluid. And it can be unnatural to kind of try and force this 3-pillared system. Sorry, Lion Nation. I saw the opportunity and I went for it. I'm sure you're very well washed. So the fight can be it can basically, the fight can be either in phases, so like Villas Farthuk suggested. There could be some tigers that pounce at the start of the fight, and then some that are kind of circling around, lying in wait, spotting their best opportunity to attack. So it's either in phases, or it's, one giant set piece. Okay. And and then finally, resolution, and that's pretty simple. Win or lose. Okay, and that's it. That's what we're looking for in an encounter. And the reason it's useful to think about, these are fantasy tigers, though. Don't tigers not hunt in packs? Yeah, well, all the tigers, maybe they'll go after different prey. More than likely, these tigers are starving in this wintry, in these wintry hills or mountains, and that's the only reason they would ever, attack such a large group to begin with. I think 2 tigers probably makes more sense than 4. Because they could be a mated pair trying to feed some cubs. But I have a large party. Excuse me. Large party, and they require special challenges. So look at that. The monster manual has rules for a dire wolf. Has dire tiger been replaced by something else? Giant tiger, maybe? Now I'm really curious. I think there's a giant tiger. No, giant toad. No giant tiger. Huh? There's the saber-toothed tiger. But we don't have dire animals of every type anymore. Interesting. But I think a dire tiger. Dire animals in general, I think, are deeply magical creatures that are going to live way out in just far away from civilization, in some place where nature and nature's magic still holds sway. So, we're talking about the 3 pillars of a great encounter. The opening, the fight, and the resolution. Alright, now this might seem really straightforward and simple, and it is, but these are the things that I think you need to at least spend a little bit of time thinking about in order to have a great encounter. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. Not every one of the 3 pillars of a great encounter is going to be, you know, massively impactful. But they all matter. If you, the thing I notice most with Dungeon Masters is skipping the opening. Nobody skips the fight, and some people skip the resolution. But I think skipping the opening can be a really unfortunate trap that people fall into, where they don't, because you haven't spent any time, you aren't going slow enough. Which is something that I'm trying to learn as a dungeon master. Go slow it down, you know, describe even if it's just one sentence, because you don't want to slow down the game too much, but you want to have enough so that people kind of get into the place to be scared, to be intimidated, to get excited about the upcoming fight. So I think the opening is the thing that people really skip over. So for this randomly generated encounter, oh yes, these are sacred to a nearby cult / religion / temple. That might be my excuse, should anyone bring up that tigers don't tend to hunt in packs. That might be my excuse to throw multiple tigers at this large party of level 3 PCs. The exasperated DM. They could be a mother and her young, which do travel together for a period of time before she leaves them. That's true. And might also play... That's a great suggestion. Thank you, the exasperated DM. I am not exasperated now that you have given me that suggestion. That might also play into the whole sacred aspect, which this wonderful generator by Pie and Dragon gave me inspiration with. Kenny says they always seem like a generic way to put extinct species in, or pumping up basic beasts to keep them relevant. Are you talking about dire animals? Yeah, I always thought dire animals are cool if properly kind of described. You know, again, dire animals, I think, should be a special legendary monster. You know, it's not just, there's just a bunch of dire wolves running around, doing stuff. They are some kind of avatar of nature. But that's beside the point. I'm not going to use a dire tiger in a random encounter. Okay, so this is my pre-rolled random encounter. So, For the opening, so these are the 3 pillars. For the opening of this encounter, I want the tigers to utilize the terrain to their advantage in order to get off a pounce. I would love for the players to be surprised by the tigers coming out of the snowy woods. And how big are tigers supposed to be in... Oh, that's interesting. Supposed to be in... I think they're medium, probably. I just had the stats up. Medium... Large beast. Ooh. Okay. Large beast. Wow. That's intense. That's gonna be scary. Tiger's a large beast. Yeesh. That is good, because that means not only is it going to scare the players, but it's going to warn them. It's going to warn them that to take these things seriously. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made. The over and misuse of such critters has dire consequences, of course. Very true, the man with no screen name. And yes, the dire wolves in Game of Thrones, right? Well, that was like a different animal, like dire wolf. All one word, I guess. Tiger. Large beast. Yeah. Okay. So that's going to warn the players not to take these things too lightly. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made was I had a whole werewolf like pack fighting players, and they fought all these werewolves, and then they basically found the pack leader, which was a werewolf lord, and werewolf lord is like a CR7 monster, whereas all the werewolves they had been fighting were like CR2 or 3. And I neglected to mention in describing the scene that the werewolf lord was large. And the players quite rightly complained when they charged in, saying, we're here to wipe you out. And then I was like, oh, so this, large-sized werewolf transforms and just rips you to shreds. It happened pretty quickly. They rightly complained that, well, you didn't mention he was large. We figured it was just the same as all these other werewolves we had been fighting. Now, I kind of like the idea. So these are going to be sacred. Sacred to a nearby cult / religion / temple. What if these tigers... Okay. Alright. So I do want the sudden attack. What if these tigers, if there's something the players could find, something they could hold up, that would cause the tigers to not attack them because they are trained. They're not tamed. They're not tame tigers, but they are maybe they know that they get food at this nearby temple, or they're taken care of, like those monks in Thailand or wherever it is, that take care of the tigers. Okay, so for my opening, pounce. I want to get off a pounce. I want to get off a double pounce if I can. And if I'm feeling like the players aren't taking the game seriously, I'd like to get off a double pounce on the same person. So the tigers only have a 40-foot move, however. So that means they can't... I made a very, very big map here. Because how do you not take a tiger seriously? Because it's D&D and players tend to think they're gods. Yeah, just to remind the players, the trolls they were fighting were large. I didn't have the right minis, couldn't understand their confusion. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And also making them large is no guarantee. So on this map, and I'm glad I'm doing this ahead of time because then I might have to build. So I might have to BS my way through it otherwise. There's kind of a clear path here, right? It's kind of a natural ramp. So if there are 4 tigers, well, I'd like for the fight to get to the middle of the map and not all take place on the edge, which is what usually happens. The issue here is if the tigers are hiding, you know, beneath a layer of snow or something, right here, for our opening, then the fight is gonna stop here. Again, these are new players. They're not really... They still think that taking an attack of opportunity is like the worst thing they could do. And besides, they don't really have any incentive to head over this way. So I've got 2 options there. I could either... and I want the fight to get more toward the middle of the map. I want the action to occur more toward the middle and actually use more of the map as possible. I hate it when people are like, well, I back off the edge of the map. You know, it's a sort of a path or ravine. I should be able to go that way. And it's like, well, yeah, you should be able to, but that's the edge of the map, and it's inconvenient. So I hate it when that happens. So I'd really like to get them out here. And I'm also subtly trying to teach my players a little bit of a lesson about tactics. Not, you know, not in any forced kind of way, but... They had an encounter before, their last encounter where an enemy was out in the open, like this, and, you know, when intending for them to approach and then get beset upon by all sides. But the lesson didn't really take because I think it just felt overwhelming. That's okay. It can take a little bit more. So I don't really want to set them up here. So... if I say that the tiger... Oh, I know. See, this is why I'm thinking about my opening. Number 1, pounce. Tigers are hiding in the trees. Okay. The tigers are hiding in the trees because tigers can climb trees. That's awesome. That's a good idea. Lots of people paint their minis, Lion Nation, and I always thought it'd be super cool to use Sculpey to sculpt the minis for players if I was part of a game. That would be awesome too. I mean, if you're playing a D&D game that lasts for, you know, months or even years, then it might be very well worth it to make, you know, nice minis personalized. Okay, so that's part of my opening. So I can describe the players kind of crunching through the snow over here. But they're going to know something's up because I'm going to go from this map to this snowy forest. Even if I hide the tigers, which I'm going to do by putting them on the GM layer, you know, they're just going to be like kind of wandering around waiting for the encounter to start unless I think about my opening a little bit more. This is why you don't skip any of the 3 pillars. There are lots of elements to make a great encounter, but there are 3 pillars. 3 things you do not skip thinking about. Okay, the tigers are hiding in the trees. I need to put something here that is relatively innocuous. How about a roadside shrine? What do we got? There has been a roadside shrine in the game before. Or an altar. So the players might actually approach it. The fools. Ooh. What if there was this weirdly verdant... What if there was this weirdly verdant, like, green, you know, sun-kissed kind of area with some kind of nature shrine to it? Remember, these tigers are sacred to a nearby cult, temple, etc. That could be interesting. I don't have the version of this without the white background, which is unfortunate. I don't have a transparency, but that's okay. I think it looks alright because it happens to be on snow. Definitely noticeable, though. There's just like, oh, there's this breath of summer. That would be weird and interesting. And again, you want the opening of an encounter to let them know something's up. I don't know, that does look nice too. That's kind of like a dark... I don't know. I like this idea too much. I'm sticking with it. The greenery. This could be, in my world, a shrine to some kind of summer god. It could even be a shrine to Zhuerk, which is what one of the clerics worship, or what the cleric worships. Although this is a more nature-y kind of based thing. I don't think it looks too bad, even with without the snow without the snow pattern on it. The spam with the screen name, sun-kissed verdant area. Now I'm hankering for a sun-kissed soda. Well, sorry, I've only got my water here. Lionation, and then the tigers come out wearing cultist robes and do a dance around the players and the altar. Poof, they're transported to another land where Gaia rules. Now it's a different campaign. Yeah, that. No, I actually do want to, at some point, kind of get the players to, like, willingly, accidentally get teleported somewhere else in the Wildlands. Because I want them to get lost. I want them to get lost. But now I'm just looking at all these cool altars. I want them to get lost, but I'm not going to do that right now because I want them to progress this kind of storyline that's been building for a while. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pull any hinky tricks like that because I want them to get to Arkney and the library of Ibu Gruger, where possibly a certain aged elf wizard has come to further his studies. But in any case, our shrine. So I'm going to, even though I'm not entirely certain that I want to how many tigers I want there to be, 4's probably a pretty good challenge for a random encounter. They're challenge rating 1 each. There are 7 players. All their characters are 3rd level. So they will, even 4 tigers, they'll be able to make pretty quick work. But we can always say that these special tigers that guard this nature shrine, they might be special somehow. Perhaps the tigers are wearing something. That might be good in my opening as well. Okay, describe shrine. What were the words I used? Oddly out of place in the wintry scene. The green glowing runes. The green runes glow in the center of a small ring of sun-kissed, verdant, small ring of sun-kissed, verdant, I don't want to say greenery again. Plants. No. Foliage. Leaves. Leaves and grasses. Okay. So that's my opening, right? Nothing too elaborate, and I can extemporaneously, I can kind of ad-lib more description. I put away my monster manual for the moment. I can always add more description in the moment if I want to. And of course, man, all this prep, it takes a lot longer to explain it than it is to do it. It's funny. I know you're kidding, Lion Nation. Don't kid me and then tell me you're kidding, you silly man. Okay, so now the last shrine the players encountered was beneficial. This one could be as well, but it has these guardians, these tigers, all around it. Okay. If they approach, I'll say your footsteps crunch over the untouched snow. Just something, one important thing to do in writing as well as in dungeon mastering is appeal to all 5 senses. That's why I keep talking about smells and sounds, and I'll certainly describe the cold. In the cold, wintry scene. Okay. So, the fight. So the fight is the tigers, at least 2 of them, have pounced. There might be 2 lying in wait. Or maybe these 2 tigers will pounce first, and then these 2 will drop out of the trees later on. Not entirely sure. But I can certainly, since the tigers don't naturally have a great ability to hide, they might be tiger, spirits, ready to be summoned in the trees. If I feel that I really need to surprise the players. Not entirely sure about that yet. I'll worry about that later. Not a big problem right now. So, for the fight, I need to decide whether it's phases or set piece. So we have that already going. Probably going to, I think It could be either one here. I might actually just leave that as an open question mark. Like, I need to kind of decide based on how the fight goes at the beginning. Like, if two of the tigers, if I can get two of the tigers to hit upon a player, and they go down unconscious in the first round of combat, then I might need to hold back a little bit. If that's not what happens, and the players start, ripping these tigers to shreds, I might need to say, okay, there's going to be reinforcements. I might need to just keep that at the ready. One of the things you can do in D&D is adjust encounters on the fly. That's the whole point of having a live dungeon master. Is that you can fine-tune the encounter on the fly, and that is where we do it in the middle. So that is something I need to absolutely keep in mind. So hold back or go all out. I'm going to put a question mark on that. So that I remember this later. The exasperated DM. Don't know if I heard you wrong or not, poor internet connection. However, tiger armor like the tiger has armor. Shadow of the Tomb Raider has a cool tiger guardian trying to find it. Oh, sounds interesting. I would do something like that, but I don't have, like, a cool tiger wearing armor token. Which actually makes a big difference to me. Oh man. Should I go with a darker toned tiger? Oh, that's a tiger at night. That's a night tiger. That's another thing, is that the tigers, if this encounter happened in the dark, the tigers have dark vision, so they would be perfectly happy. There's a white tiger, but I don't have that one. What is that guy doing? Anyway. I don't have a cool tiger wearing armor token, which actually makes a big difference to me. Okay, so here's where I'm going to use these cards. And these are incredibly simple. So I have, these are my encounter twist cards. And I'm going to use this to kind of give me an idea to make the fight more interesting. Because, sure, the tiger, I have the opening is pretty interesting. There's something to lure the players in, but it's kind of weird. So they shouldn't feel like they had no warning. And the fight will take place in a more interesting location here in the middle. I also have these hidden enemies with a pounce ability. So the very first round of the fight is going to go, it's almost certainly, unless I have abysmal rolls, it's almost certainly going to, give the tigers are going to have advantage. It's almost certainly going to look really bad for the players. But the pounce thing, although the tigers can continue to use it, it's less effective later on in the fight, because usually if the tiger is in melee combat, it's going to have to provoke an attack of opportunity to go and attack someone else. So it's going to be most effective and most deadly and dangerous when it's a surprise, both for the players and for the characters. So my opening, I think, is pretty interesting. It's not the greatest thing ever, but it definitely suggests magic and danger, and I think the unpredictability of wandering through the wilderness. Villis Farthuk. Yep, I once threw in an extra chimera when the first one got put down too quick. Well, there you go. I actually have a chimera fight that the players took on a job of, in the last session, they are going to hunt down a legendary chimera, which is going to be interesting. I want to make sure that it's a challenge that doesn't instantly kill the whole party unless they rush in without forethought. So that's going to be interesting. I think all of my legendary creatures are going to have a legendary action. More on that another time. The exasperated DM, it had ceremonial armor. The people believed it was a spirit. Cool. I think these tigers, yeah, they will be wearing something. Maybe like, maybe something not like armor, but something, you know, something like maybe a magic charm that could give them armor. Or maybe the tigers have like necklaces or crowns of leaves or something, which would look a little silly, but kind of suggesting their connection to this shrine here. I think that's a great looking shrine. Looks like it has two little pillars and this circle of stone. Oh, if that's like meant to be a whole big tree, then maybe this shrine is meant to be a really big thing. It does have these little steps, but I think that's big enough for my purposes. I don't want to make it any bigger. So it's a bush. I wish I had the version without the transparency version, which I know there's programs that can do that, but I don't want to deal with it right now. Okay. So, the fight. I'm going to add a twist to make the fight more interesting, because I certainly could have the tigers come in and then just fight it out. You know, the tigers bite, the tigers, you know, tigers aren't super intelligent, they're animals, but these tigers are special. And they certainly have a predator's capability to take down prey. So they're going to angle for getting advantage by circling around targets and trying to surround them. But the players outnumber the tigers. I certainly could throw, you know, more tigers in for a really epic encounter, and probably the players could win. But again, unless they roll really high on their random difficulty dice, I'm not going to make this into that epic of an encounter, just as a random encounter in the wilderness. So they certainly could just fight it out, but then it tends to, but it, you know, it's not all that interesting. It's just, yeah, we circle around, we roll dice, it's a good time. I'm gonna see what kind of twist I can add. So I'm gonna shuffle these up, and these are all really simple, easy to make yourself. Gonna draw the top one, and I drew. Not draw my light. Flooded. 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 How could flooded apply here? Well, there could be an avalanche, couldn't there? Especially if this is in the mountains. Or we could certainly say that it has something to do with the terrain, rather than it being an event during the fight that could wipe everyone out. That would be an interesting twist, is if the terrain, the snow, might slow people down. An avalanche might be more interesting, though. An avalanche might be more interesting. There could be something hidden under the snow. What do I have in terms of avalanches? Nada. I don't know what that is. Let's look for snow. Snowplow. Is that like a crack in the snow? Snowy tent. These are snow textures. There's a snowy tree. Meh, I don't think flooded is all that suggestive. Let's see if another one presents itself. Oh man, shifting corridor. I do a shifting corridor. Well, there's no corridors here. But the terrain certainly could shift, especially if there was something like an avalanche. Ooh, what's this? What happens if we make this big? That looks kind of like an avalanche. The god of this particular shrine might call forth an avalanche. Ooh. So either the avalanche, it could be a smallish avalanche that just kind of changes up the terrain a bit. Or it could block the players in. It could come down this way, and it could block the path. Which might be interesting. Although, I bet an avalanche... I mean, a really serious avalanche can just straight up kill them. So I've got to be careful. Collars with a bell so they aren't killing the local bird life. Maybe. I mean, I know you're saying that to be silly, the Lanthos Grey name, but that could actually be kind of creepy. Oh, here we go. Another avalanche image. If I wanted to do... it's very similar, isn't it? But, cool. So this could come down here. And this one could come down that way. Or it could cover up the shrine, which somehow doesn't seem appropriate since the whole description of the shrine here is that it is all summary. So that's quite a twist. I like that. Alright. I'd probably want to make sure that I describe, before I throw an avalanche in here, I kind of want to make sure that I describe it snowing a lot more heavily. This music is getting repetitive. I'm gonna change to this. Alright. I think that looks pretty good. An avalanche could straight up kill them, though. I mean, they could certainly be like, you know, little mini avalanches. But if we're talking about like a whole landslide type of deal... I'm just messing with the visuals of it right now. So it might be better if it just changed up the terrain a bit. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, look at the images. Actually, a jaguar. Music change, play Freebird. I think that's copyrighted, the man with no screen name. Sounds cool, the exasperated DM. But again, I don't have like a token with an armored tiger on it. Otherwise, I might use it. I wonder if I have a were-tiger. I've got stats for a were-tiger. Were-bear, were-boar, were-rat, were-tiger. Oh, man. So, we have our twist, which is that there's a sudden change in the terrain. We need a twist in the fight. That's a pillar. There's always got to be something unexpected to change things up. Alright, I'm going to put this on the GM layer. And then I can bring it out. When I need to. So that's going to restrict their movement, potentially. Actually, you know what? I should have the avalanches fall where they're really going to matter. I could say these cliffs are pretty high. For example. And it could come tumbling down. So the place where the avalanches are going to have the biggest impact, and actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I should have them kind of magically avoid the altar. Because that'll be cool. Describing the way the altar pushes the snow aside like an invisible force field. Surrounding it. That would be cool. I should do that. So I'm actually going to put them in the place where the avalanches will have the greatest impact. Besides, you know, right on top of the players, which I don't really want to do. At least, I mean, if they're standing there, which they very well might be, they might get hit. But other than that, the avalanches are going to have the biggest terrain impact if I put them in these open spaces. So this is like the biggest open space. So I'm putting one avalanche there. And there's a big open space here, so I'm covering that up. And this could affect the tigers as well. Lionation. Will they be able to utilize the altar after the fight? Like sacrifice some carrots or something to get a reward? Yes. They definitely should be able to do that. I think probably... Well, the altar has these guardians, and fighting the altar's guardians may not be the best way to do that. Then again, if they do leave some kind of offering, or have some other way of interacting with it, maybe they can interact with the shrine. So one of the things... change. So it's going to be half speed. Okay. Dangerous. I'm going to make it a low DC to save and dodge out of the way. We'll say it's a... Because the avalanche is going to be loud. Very loud. And shake the ground. Actually, that's something I should do. DC 12 dodge out of the way, or take... how much should an avalanche do? Well, if you stand there and take it, it will bury you and crush you. So you're probably looking at 6d6, which is pretty hefty. Bludgeoning. And become restrained. Buried. I'm nesting my parentheses here. Lionation. What? Okay, wait. Okay. What if it's kind of a puzzle with a hint? Instead of sacrificing something living, they have to paint something, plant something. Maybe. I'll see what the players do. I should define what deity this is a shrine to. Probably, Juojor. Which is a god associated with the month of July in my world. And I think we're going to define Juojor as a verdant nature deity of growth and the mighty power of life. Something like that. Okay. Now there are two other things to make an encounter interesting in the fight. One is having varied enemies. Now I have 4 tigers here. Mixed arms is what it's called, where you have some ranged enemies. This also increases the challenge, where you have some ranged enemies, you have some enemies with different kinds of abilities. The only way I'm going to have mixed arms in this fight, mixed arms meaning like arms and armor, like weapons. The only way I'm going to have that in this fight is if I give the tigers special magical abilities. Which I could do. And the other thing... Well, that's plenty for now. So... yeah. Kind of emphasizing these magic tigers in the snow. There's something very impactful about that, especially if they have special abilities. Lionation, alright, signing off. Catch you later. Let me know when you'd like to create my character. Alright, Lionation, thanks for coming by. I'm not going to stream too much longer anyhow. Okay, text me, Lion Nation. Okay. Mixed arms. Yeah, I think I'm interested in doing something like that. We do have a were-tiger. We could throw in there. How powerful is the were-tiger? Could change one out. Ooh, much stronger. We could have a were-tiger that comes in, that sets off the avalanches. Knowing that these spiritual tigers will merely be resummoned by the shrine. The were-tiger being a intelligent and terrestrial being. And it can fire off a longbow. Yeah. So the were-tiger, they can have some RP with. If they can fight the guardians, but convince the were-tiger that they are worthy in so doing. That would be a great opportunity for some role-playing coming out of the combat encounter. Boy, he is a small, slight character. Some extra space in the model there. That's better. Oh, he's under the avalanche. This guy will allow me to utilize more of this map. So I think he's hiding. He just got his own little camp up there. Maybe hunting trap. Whoa. A fire pit. And hidden hunting trap. And a snow-covered tent. So now this is getting really interesting because I'm already thinking about my resolution. The fight leads into the resolution after all. And in working with all of my pillars, I have made sure that each part of the fight will be interesting. Well, at least has the best chance of being interesting, I hope. And also, they kind of play into each other. The opening leads to making the fight better, which leads to just being picky about exactly where to put this tent. Which leads to opening leads to the fight, which leads to the resolution. So I'm now thinking about not only making the fight interesting by having mixed arms, adding a were-tiger into the mix who has a ranged weapon. And this guy is going to be... He's off hunting or something. He's going to come back when he hears the fight starting. That'll be fun. Could have put him up this path kind of thing, which I would like visually, but there isn't really enough space up here. And if somebody comes charging, you know, up to the were-tiger, who I need a name for now, then I will. I just want to. It can be cramped. I just need like a little map space to have that combat in. But in all likelihood, my plan is to fill in my pillars in such a manner. So. Always thinking about mixed arms, which is really just, you know, having a varied enemy types, different kinds of enemies to fight, so that they're not all one note. I think goes a very long way to preventing the fight from becoming a slog, which can always be a potential problem. So, I think we're ready for the resolution, because I think that the fight itself is sounding pretty fun. It has this crazy twist happening in the middle of it, and it has this were-tiger, you know, firing off his longbow, and maybe yelling stuff, should he so choose. Should I so choose to have him yell stuff. Alright, and I'm not going to hide this. Maybe I'll make a check or something, but I'm not going to hide this. I'm just going to have it be there, and the were-tiger will be off the map. Somewhere. Okay, the resolution. Now, this can be quite short. Like the opening, it just... Another thing that often gets rushed, or given short shrift, is the resolution to an encounter, because you're like, yeah, the fight is what it's all about, but a nice way of wrapping up can be really important. So, the resolution, I think I've already got a really good idea for that. As was suggested, there's a reward granted by Shrine, and it's going to give them a blessing that I will figure out what that is in a minute. And reward granted by Shrine, blessing, and role-playing opportunity. So again, this is that mixed kind of challenges thing. Is I think a great session, and maybe a great encounter, has role-playing, has a little bit of everything, at least a little bit of everything, and it's very hard to pull off, but when it does, I always feel like I've done a great job. Combat, role-playing, puzzles, exploration, something to satisfy every kind of thing people like to do in D&D. So, all of that is to say, in the resolution, RP, the were-tiger who worships Jojor of the shrine, at the shrine, worships, need that S, sees that the PCs have proven themselves, or not, and the Were-Tiger, who worships... Okay, I need a name for the Were-Tiger. That's becoming very important to me now. What do we got? Werewolf name generator. Okay. Rico. Why is Rico the first one? These are all very tiger-related names. Jimmy. Alright, Lycaon Ulfgungur. I don't love those. I mean, they're wolfy. Let's see. I think this tiger... I think this tiger is going to have something Malaysian. Oh yeah, these are fun. Yaqub, Mansur, Hazim, Putra, Jiwa. Okay, I like that. Jiwa bin Sugriwa. Is this a male were-tiger or a female? Looks... well, really could be either. We're gonna go with male. Let's fill that in. Parenthesis. Jiwa bin Sugriwa. Sugriwa. Which is how I'm going to pronounce it, because it's my world and not the real world. So if I mispronounce it, it's not a mispronunciation. Who worships Jurjur at the shrine. And is part of a small nature cult. Have proven themselves or not, and offers to show them, and can offer, if he chooses, to show them the way to make obeisance or obeisance. How do you pronounce that word? And gain Jurjur's blessing. What is Jurjur's blessing going to be? Now, the way I like to do blessings is this a kind of a significant but small, well, not small, a significant one-use ability. Like a reroll is the most basic thing. I'd like it to be something more interesting. So I need a one-use ability for this blessing. How about Pounce? We've got the Pounce ability of the Tigers. Which, really, it's going to work the same exact way that his ability permanently works. Except maybe a little less powerful. Or maybe a little more powerful. Interesting. So the Were-Tiger has counts tiger or hybrid form only. Well, maybe it just lets them do this part. I'd say that seems reasonable. Feature and then hit it with a melee attack on the same turn. Target must succeed on a DC. What is the 14 based on? Probably like strength and proficiency. I'll just leave it at 14. You know what? No. A strength saving throw will be knocked prone. And then I can adjust that how I like. It's probably based on strength modifier and proficiency, because it's the force of you crashing into your enemy. And then there's possibly a roleplay encounter with Jiwa bin Sugriwa. He can turn into a tiger as well. But he is my mixed arms component, so I really want him to... And he's, you know, not stupid. So he is going to focus on using the longbow to kind of support the spirit tigers, and that's it. So, made an encounter. I'm pretty happy with it. I think I could come up with a couple more magic abilities to kind of make the fight even more interesting, but there is a lot going on here already. I talked about my 3 pillars, so that's it, folks. Thank you so much for watching or listening. I will catch you folks later. Probably be back tomorrow night with another stream. If you're watching this later, thank you very much. Thanks for coming by. And that's it. Good night. Bye.